When the Hudson Bay Company first opened Vancouver Island as settlement in 1849, a British Army officer, Captain Walter Grant, became the first colonist to settle on the island. He cleared land and established a sawmill at the location now known as Souk. Walter Grant brought and planted 3 seeds from Scotland, thereby introducing what is now considered a noxious invasive plant, Scotch broom. Captain Grant's seed spread quickly, and now, more than 165 years later, Scotch broom covers roadside farms, parks, and clear-cut areas all over Vancouver Island and the Gulf Islands. Why is Scotch broom such bad news? Scotch broom is an alien invasive plant, a bully, a dominator. It has pretty flowers, but the mature plant itself is usually half dead. Broom is a woody weed that spreads rapidly, grows tall quickly, and forms dense thickets that crowd out native plants, leading to a dramatic loss of diversity. Broom slows and prevents forestry growth. Wildlife can't eat it. It makes farmland useless. And because of the high oil content in dry branches, broom is dangerously flammable. Broom is simply bad news. In 2006, a small group of residents decided they would do something about it. It was not fair to leave the problem of Scotch broom for future generations to deal with. Besides, by then it might be too late. A lifelong railroad man told them that if you cut broom in bloom, it will die. It was blooming season 2006. I went to the town of Qualicum Beach and asked, "Why aren't you cutting your broom?" They replied, "We don't have the manpower." "Well, if we cut it down, will you remove it?" The town said yes and continued to say yes for over 10 years. The same year, 2006, the Ministry of Transportation gave the same positive response. That was the origins of Broombusters Invasive Plant Society and its partnership with the town of Qualicum Beach. It started slowly with 8 people the first year, 12 the next. But a decade later, there are over 500 Broombuster volunteers cutting broom for more than 3,000 hours each spring in areas from Campbell River to Duncan on East Vancouver Island. In 2006, the prevailing attitude towards broom was, "You can't stop the spread, give up. It's naturalized." It does often sound like an impossible task.
So people say to me, "You must be really discouraged because there's so much broom on the highway." But no, I'm not discouraged. Okay, we have to look at what we have done and what we can do. And what we can do is we can save this park, we can save this field, we can save this farm, this young forest, and this town. And that is what we did in Qualicum Beach, and this is how we did it.
If you drive through Qualicum Beach today, you might think this seaside town never had a problem with broom. Actually, it had a big problem. Large broom lined most of the roads, covered private properties, golf courses, and a 10-acre landfill. The first year, our efforts were focused on Memorial Road, the entrance into town. By year 2, we had our name, Broombusters, and we had created our slogan, "Cut Broom in Bloom." Each year we took on a new road or area, like the 10-acre-old landfill, which was covered with broom. By year 5, there were dedicated volunteers cutting broom all over town. Here are some of the strategies we learned over 10 years in Qualicum Beach. Empower the people. When people have training, tools, and permission, they love to take care of the land. Give volunteers freedom to cut broom where they live, when they have time. Qualicum Beach picked up broom cut by volunteers anywhere in town. Make room for everyone. Some people like to work in groups, others work alone. We scheduled regular community cuts so volunteers could meet each other and learn how to cut broom correctly. Then individuals in small groups wanted to go out on their own, so we loaned out tools. We put up signs and notices in the paper so interested people could find us. Go after the small patches first. Stop the spread. Save what you can. Stay away from areas of dense broom that cover whole fields and right-of-ways. Eventually we'll get to it all. Adopt a patch. If you give freedom to do so, people will adopt an area they care about.
My wife and I, Jenny and I, adopted a piece of road on Qualicum Beach, basically from Arbutus, Rupert, all the way down to the ring road, down to the Island Highway, and it's essentially broom-free. And so it doesn't take that much for a couple, if you adopt a piece of highway, to maintain it free from broom. It's actually quite rewarding.
Technique matters. If you want broom to die, you have to do it right. People thought they couldn't stop the spread of broom because they weren't using the right methods. Cut broom in bloom at ground level with loppers in the spring. Why does this work? It seems too simple. The problem with broom is not the roots, it's the seeds. 18,000 seeds per plant that remain viable in the soil for 30 to 40 years. So cut the plant at ground level when it is most vulnerable, when most of the energy is above the ground in the flowers, before the seed pods form. The dry heat of summer will kill the plant. And it works because broom needs sun. If you don't disturb the soil by pulling or digging, the seeds will be in the shade of the grass and ground cover. They won't sprout in the shade. But if you disturb the soil, previous year's seeds are going to sprout. You'll have hundreds of new broom seedlings.
I was working for the newspaper about 5 years ago, and I was driving along the highway and I saw some Broombusters, and I smelled a story, pulled over, went and talked to Joanne, and she said maybe I should try it, which I did. Anyway, 5 years later, I'm still doing it, and I got elected to council in Qualicum Beach, and I've been working on trying to push this initiative forward and trying to make Qualicum Beach broom bloom free in 2 years. And with the response we've had, I think it could well work.
Last week we had an amazing event in Qualicum Beach. We had, I don't know how many people, 40, 50 people come out to cut broom on a Saturday on a hot afternoon. It was great. We had kind of a 10th anniversary on the broom busting initiative that was started by Joanne Sales and her friends. Neil Horner, who's been cutting broom for years, thought it would be an appropriate thing to do to celebrate the 10th anniversary. We had a cake, we had musicians, we had draws, we had prizes. And in the end, when I look back at what we did, and you can see some of the pictures of how it started and how we finished, there was this kind of enemy line of broom, and we all took our lobbers and we attacked it, and by the end of the 2 hours, it was gone. That's success. That is a great story.
There was great reason to celebrate. We weren't done yet, but we were close enough to see the goalpost. We had proof that Scotch broom can be stopped. There isn't much broom now to be found in Qualicum Beach except under the power lines. Where we cut it, the broom is gone. Years later, still gone. Occasionally new plants show up, but we go out and deal with them, just like picking up litter. People ask, how is the battle going with Scotch broom? The answer is this: where people are cutting broom, we are winning the battle. When we ignore it, broom wins. Invasive species are the second greatest threat to biodiversity, second only to development. That's serious. Perhaps your passion is native plants, tomorrow's forests or farms and food security, safety from wildfire and good health. Maybe you love hiking and biking and want to preserve the beauty of the islands and health of the ecosystem for the future. People of all ages and interests and professions are out there cutting broom, but your help is needed. We desperately need help on the provincial level and from businesses, especially forestry and electric companies. But we've seen a shift. People now know cut broom in bloom, and many do it. The truth is, even when we do get more help, it's still going to be up to you and me. The town councils, clubs, community groups, property owners, developers, school districts, and lovers of the islands. Why do 500 or more volunteers cut broom for over 3,000 hours a year? Because they care. Because it makes a big difference. Broom busting is a great community builder. And it's fun, even addicting. And it works. There are so many environmental issues that we can do little about, but this one is totally in our hands. One broom plant at a time, one generation at a time, one town at a time. The idea that started in Qualicum Beach has spread, and as of 2016, we can also thank a growing number of municipalities: Parksville, Nanaimo, Lanceville, Courtenay, Comox, Cumberland, Port Alberni, Campbell River, Ladysmith, North Cowichan, and District of Highlands, and regional districts and volunteers all over the islands. See you in the spring. Check Broombusters' website to start or to join efforts in your area. Cut broom in bloom.